What's up, guys? It's your boy Deadman here with the very first Deadman tutorial. Oh Lord, that is too much skin. Today I want to talk about something that's really cool, and that is a reverb rack. Up until recently, whenever I would add reverb to a track, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. There's a little bit more traditional way of adding reverb through like a bus, which for those of you that don't know what a bus is basically having a separate track in your session that you can send signal to that has effects, typically used for effects or for different types of compression, just so that that effect doesn't have to be on your main sound. Reason to do this, there's a lot of different reasons. It can help boost some of the loudness factor, but more than anything, it's so that you can maintain the integrity of the original track and still have the ability to add effects. So actually adding effects without taking away from the original sound. A little bit of backstory. I did go to school back in the day for engineering and production, and that was awesome. It was incredible, and it was all in Pro Tools. But as I started learning Ableton, I got in the habit of just adding reverb onto the track itself and processing that as just like part of the effects as I began to learn a little bit more about sound design and like how that could create a different sound. However, what I did notice is that it would take away from that sound integrity like we were talking about a minute ago, where sometimes whether it be like an actual bass or like some sort of musical element, or if it was the vocals, it was like every time I would add reverb into the mix, it would get muddy or I would lose the clarity. And I just didn't feel like my vocals were popping out like I was hearing in some other tracks where it just felt like the vocal was in front of everything. It was very clear and I could hear it very well. And so I was kind of chasing that sound or chasing that like feeling for the music. And then I discovered the reverb rack. Now, I also want to say this idea is not original to me. There are lots of people that either have like a reverb rack that they sell like this, or that they have tutorials like this idea. This is just my version. This is an idea for you. What I've got here is just a couple of drum loops from MIJA. She released a sample pack, also really cool for like garage style house tracks, or if you just like kind of like the Dirty Bird sound for like house music, check out MIJA's pack. Also, I have a loop here from NOTELLE. This right here, guys. NOTELLE's a local artist here in Nashville. Incredible vocalist, seeing some cool momentum in her career, which is really awesome. And then if you don't, of course, know of MIJA, if you know me, I love MIJA. So we just got a couple of loops here that I chopped up for just purposes of kind of playing around with what we're talking about today. Here we go.
It's coming over, washing over me, coming closer, pull you close to me, coming over, washing over me, coming closer, pull you close to me.
All right, so that sounds pretty cool, right? Also, don't worry about my writing skills. Fire. So with everything as we have it, just with the dry vocal, right? It sounds pretty good. I can understand what's happening. I can hear the vocals. I can understand the lyrics, but it doesn't particularly stand out in front of the mix. Also, I'm hungry for some effects there. So what I did is I'm just going to turn this rack on here. Just some effects to kind of clean up the vocal. So now that we have our just clean up effects, let's hear what this sounds like.
It's coming over, washing over me, coming closer, pull you close to me, coming over, washing over me, coming closer, pull you close to me.
So now that we have some effects cleaning up the vocal and obviously a little bit of compression, it is louder, right? So it's louder than it was before, kind of feels more clear, but mostly just because it's louder now, right? We don't have any effects. Now, typically what I would have done in the past, let me just go ahead and close this guy. What I would have done is taken a reverb and I would have, let's see, I would have just put it right on the track, right? And I probably would have adjusted this dry wet just so that I would be able to control how much reverb I was working with. So, right, full on reverb.
Coming closer, put you close to me, coming over, washing over me, coming closer, put you close to me.
So this sounds good for all intents and purposes. However, it doesn't add any clarity to the track. So now that we've heard the track dry, and we've also heard the track with some preliminary effects and reverb added onto the track, let's listen to the track with just the reverb rack instead. And see if you can tell the difference. So this is going to be, we're going to toggle between the effects and the reverb rack.
It's coming over, washing over me, coming closer, put you close to me, coming over, washing over me, coming closer, put you close to me.
Let's do one more time through, but this time instead of the reverb rack, let's just use the reverb plugin. Here we go.
It's coming over, washing over me, coming closer, put you close to me, coming over, washing over me, coming closer, put you close to me.
So a couple of things to notice here right off the bat. The first thing is when I have the reverb rack enabled, right? The feeling that we get is that there's reverb behind the vocal, right? It's something that's kind of like an underlying layer of effects, and that vocal is able to pop out in front of the music a little bit more than if we have just the plugin on. When we have just the plugin on, and we'll listen to this again, if we have just the reverb plugin on, what we're experiencing is that reverb is saturating the entire vocal. It's a little bit, to me, it sounds a little bit more thick. It sounds, has some more low and mids in there because in the rack, which I'll show you here, we kind of do a little bit of EQ to cut that portion out. So let's listen to kind of listen to the thickness of the reverb that we're experiencing. So here we go.
It's coming over,
It's the dry vocal.
washing over me, coming closer, put you close to me, coming over, washing over me, coming closer, put you close to me.
So with this one, to me, it sounds a little bit better because that reverb is a little bit lighter, and it does feel like it's setting behind the vocal. So let's do this. I'm actually just going to close my rack, and then what we're going to do is come up here, duplicate, and we'll just remake this together. So I'm not going to remake the effects rack here. If you want to take screenshots or you want to look at the parameters, you're welcome to do so. I'll probably do a tutorial on mixing like this for vocals at some point, but yeah, boom. Here's your compressor. Here's your OTT. Here is reduce ambience. There's your EQ. Done. So what we're going to do is, the first thing is reverb. We're going to add in our reverb. We're going to do Command G, group that, open up the chains, open up the knobs here. Next thing, we're going to click on chain right here, Command D. In the bottom chain, we're going to go ahead and click on reverb, and we're going to delete that guy. We're also going to click on the chain here, Command R for renaming. We're going to call this one dry. Going to go up to the top chain. We're going to Command R again here. I'm a Mac user, so all my shortcuts are going to be Mac first, but I'm pretty positive for PC, it's Control R. You'd have to look. I don't know this off the top of my head. So yeah, again, Command R here, wet, we'll title this one wet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start adding in our other effects. So I also use Command F to take me straight to the search bar, and I just type in what I'm looking for instead of having to search and scroll. So I will do Command F there. We're going to search for OTT. Go ahead and bring that guy into the mix ahead. Again, remember I said we do the time all the way up to 1000. We're going to turn off the lows. Let me just jump back over here. Remember exactly what I did. Perfect. Yeah, that's all we've got going on. And then for the EQ, we're going to do Command F again. EQ. EQ8. We're going to drop this in right after the reverb. Also, we want reverb at 100%. And let's go ahead and start adding in our EQ. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change this to brick wall cutoff here around 100. I remember in my last one I have brought this down just a hair, and then we're going to boost the highs just a little bit. Let me just take a look back here. Yeah, that's pretty close. Looks like I got this one forward just a little bit more in the other version. Again, guys, this is all based off of what feels right, what you're looking for in your sound. Then I'm going to duplicate that. So click on the EQ8 here, and we're going to do Command D to duplicate, and we're going to change that mode. Switch it over to mono and stereo. Then for this one, for number 4, we're just going to actually turn that guy off. We're going to go over to stereo. For parameter 3 here, we're not going to do a full brick wall, but we are going to do a roll off. We're going to bring that here just a little bit in front of the mono signal here. We're going to bring number 5 down a little bit as well. And then what we're going to take for that stereo, and we're going to boost it. Let's see. I'm going to boost this guy so it gets a pretty we get our highs in the stereo there. So now that we have that engaged, let's take a listen to our vocal. We've got our dry signal.
It's coming over, washing over me.
And then we'll add in the wet signal here.
It's coming over, washing over me, coming closer.
Perfect. So that sounds really close to what we had before, almost identical, I'd say. As a final touch here, let's go ahead and map one of these knobs to the wet signal, just for ease of use. So click on that map option. What I'm going to do is select right here where it currently says 0 dB, which is the volume of that chain. Come over here in the first macro and click map. And then before we save everything, let's go ahead and let's see here. Perfect. Yeah, we'll go ahead and click map. Come over here. We're going to click Command R again to rename the knob. We're going to say dry. I'm sorry. Nope. We're just going to say wet. And what this will do is it gives you quick access to the amount of signal that's going through that wet chain. Benefits here is that you're able to just quickly adjust this signal on the fly. So let's bring it all the way down.
It's coming over.
We have our dry signal.
Washing over me, coming closer. Pull you close to me, coming over. Washing over me, coming closer. Pull you close to me.
Now, another thing that you can do here, which I prefer actually, depending on, I say I prefer. Another thing that we can do here is actually, instead of adjusting the wet signal, is adjusting the dry signal as well. If you want to map this to a macro, you can. Typically what I do is just leave the chains view open and adjust it from there. But with that wet signal at 0,
it's coming over, washing over me, coming closer, pull you close to me.
We can actually bring down the dry signal, and we can allow that wet signal to be a little bit more prominent. Now, something to keep in mind here is that when you are working with a chain, with an effects rack, right? And you make multiple chains. What's happening here is that your vocal track, right? Your vocal track is actually going through the effects rack twice. So twice, not 4 times, twice. So you have a full signal going through the wet chain and a full signal going through the dry chain. So you will have to compensate the volume for that, because essentially we're doubling the volume, right? So that doesn't mean that we need to pull one of these all the way, a very long way down as far as volume is concerned, long way down. But you will need to pay attention to your dry signal and your wet signal, make sure that ultimately what's coming out, the output of your actual track is at the volume that you're looking for. So now that we've got our new reverb chain built, the final step here would be to actually save this guy for future use. Now, this is what I'm going to say before we go any further. Every tutorial that I'm going to make, I'm going to recommend that you save and organize your effects and your presets. It is hands down the most important element of being able to produce quickly, get ideas down quickly, is having your effects and having your samples organized so that you know exactly where they are when you need them. So let's go ahead and save this one. To save an effects rack, click on the save button right here. What that's going to do is going to immediately save our effects rack as it is currently as the default setting. And what I typically do is I'll do an abbreviation for Deadman, so DM, and then a space and dash, and then I would do reverb rack and then enter to save. So now in the future, let's say I'm working with a vocal track. I want to do my reverb rack. I can do another search, DM. First, you have to know how to spell reverb rack, and boom, we're in the business. See how quick that was? We didn't have to take any time to make any adjustments on those parameters. You want to be able to get right to it. So we've got our reverb rack saved here. If you want to just kind of like as some extras here, if you like the view of the plugins, I personally like the view of plugins in the bottom because I like to be able to see exactly what I'm working with. But most of the time when I'm not working on that track, I'll either double click the whole thing to minimize it, or for quick access to the dry wet knob here, I'll actually just close the plugins view and close the chains view so that now, boom, very simple. All those effects are still in play, but it's just easy to work with. Let's listen back to our big tune here.
It's coming over, washing over me, coming closer, pull you close to me, coming over, washing over me, coming closer, pull you close to me.
Congratulations, you did it. You made a reverb rack. Thank you guys for watching. Again, I'm so excited to be doing this. This is the first of many to come, tutorials by Deadman. And if you like it, if you liked the video, if you thought this was helpful, let me know in the comments. Tell me what you liked. If there's something that you saw in the video that I did briefly as I was walking through the process, call it out here in the comments. I'm happy to do a tutorial on any of those elements or shortcuts or anything like that. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you did the video, like the video, subscribe to my channel. I mean, what else do you expect me to say? It's the end of my YouTube video. I want you to stick around. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.